to the world.
There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With over 140 channels in your vehicle, your all-access trial includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video on Demand. What you love is on now.
Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in to yet another CMA Connected presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. And on this midweek session, we're going to dive into something very, very specific. However, very relevant for what's going on right now in the world of car theft. You know, car theft has always been a thing, obviously. But in recent years, the crooks, the criminals have gotten smarter. They've armed themselves with technology that most people aren't even aware of. Not only is it high tech, but it makes it incredibly easy for those who know this technology, know these techniques, to get into your car and leave without right under your very nose. So on that topic, we brought in some specialists today to talk about a particular product produced by a company by the name of Nav-TV. Nav-TV is distributed in Canada by Gemsen and is probably known for a lot of OEM integration pieces. So this may be one of those items that have flown under the radar, but today we're going to put that in the forefront and find out exactly why this is an item that you need to know about. So to do that, I'm going to bring in our good friend from Gemsen, Mr. Dave Singh. What's going on, Dave?
Ben, good to see you.
Good to see you. This may be our last broadcast together for the year. For real this time.
No, I think we got one more.
Oh my God, you're so right. We do have one more. Yes, we do.
Yes.
But you know, when you first reached out to me, Dave, and mentioned the Secure Key product, I heard mention of it in a previous training that we did. But then when we started talking about how relevant it is right now with what we call relay theft, I mean, if we could take this moment or this opportunity to kind of educate people on what that is, and then get into exactly what technology is involved with security to help fight that. And I think that would benefit a lot of our audience.
Oh, absolutely. You know, first let's talk about some of the thefts that are occurring. I just the other day I was at my mechanic's watching TV, the news scrolling there, and there was a big article about vehicle thefts that are on the rise. And the common thing that is occurring is vehicle theft is not new.
No.
Cars have been stolen for years. But it has now become exceedingly easy for vehicles to be stolen using high-tech devices. And, you know, no longer do you have to go out with a Slim Jim and, you know, try to pop the lock or smash a window. The devices that are being used make it much easier. So, unfortunately, vehicles are being taken, you know, within seconds off your driveway. Relay attack is essentially where a thief or a combination of thieves can go up to a vehicle and basically take the communication that typically happens between your key fob and your vehicle, which normally has to be at an extremely close range, but they can basically boost that signal or amplify that signal and relay it across a much greater distance. So for example, let's just say you pull up to your house. Most people, they unlock their doors. You walk into your house. First thing you might do is throw your keys on the table. Maybe you leave them inside your jacket, leave them inside a purse, and you walk away. They're there because it's probably the last thing you're going to get when you're walking out the house. And that proximity to the front door makes it very easy for thieves to be able to pick up that signal from that key fob and boost it or relay that information back to your vehicle and trick the vehicle into believing that the key fob is right outside the door. That allows a thief to open up the door and then potentially start the vehicle and drive away.
I'm going to stop you before you go too far because you're blowing my mind on a couple items here. So, you know, we've been in the game long enough where we used to put, you know, motion sensors and tilt sensors and all this type of stuff. None of that is relevant with what you just told me now, because we're not even talking about any physical skill set involved in retrieving or getting into a vehicle. You're talking about devices that amplify, duplicate, and broadcast that critical signal between that key fob and that vehicle. But I have a question for you, Dave. I mean, we all know how we think we have the car keys, and then we get to the car, we press our foot on the brake, we try to start the car. Oh, it doesn't start. Why? Because you're not close enough, or the key, you didn't bring the key with you. So there's a proximity thing to this whole situation. So how does that work?
So, like I said, you're essentially fooling the vehicle into believing that key fob is close by, because let me walk you through it exactly how it
Yes,
happens.
please.
What a thief will do, and it's usually a combination of thieves, is one will walk up to your car door and lift the handle. Okay. At the time you do that, your vehicle starts broadcasting a signal looking for the key fob. Okay. It's saying, hey, somebody's trying to open up the door. Where's the key fob? Now, if you left it by your front door, it's probably too far away for the key fob to broadcast back to the vehicle to open it up. But if that thief took his device and picked up the signal that's being broadcasted from the vehicle and relayed it over a great distance, it could be 50 feet, could be 100 feet, could be 1,000 feet. He can relay that signal to another thief that has another device, and he's now trying to pick up the signal of your key fob in your front door.
That's close to your front door, like you mentioned
exactly.
before. Okay. So it's a two-man minimum operation.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that two-way communication is now being done via relay, and that's the terminology relay attack, because essentially you're relaying information back and forth. But that two-way information is being broadcasted over a much greater distance. You don't have to be within the close proximity of the vehicle. You could be 1,000 feet away. As long as they can broadcast that information back to the thief that's standing outside your vehicle, he can open up your doors and start your vehicle and drive away.
So the key really is not being, obviously, one, being close to the vehicle. The key, I say the key, no pun intended, but the critical element here is that other receiver / transmitter is in close proximity to the key fob physically itself.
Correct. And, here's the thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be at home. I mean, obviously at home, thieves are aware that overnight, they're not going to be interrupted. There's not going to be the owner walking up to his car at 2 a.m. in the morning or whatever. But there's other places where this sort of thing can happen. For example, gym locker rooms. Mike O'Connor, one of our people at Gemsen, he's a VP. He was mentioning, because his sister works for the Ontario Provincial Police, that a lot of the thefts are happening in things like movie theaters, gyms. Gyms are a great example. You go to the gym, hang up all your stuff inside a locker, you're working out for an hour or something like that. Somebody that's been watching you or keeping an eye on you, all it takes is for him to have access, to the lockers. He could be a member at the gym, and he's relaying information back and forth to some guy in the parking lot.
It doesn't take much to do a little basic surveillance and understand your routine, and away you go.
If that vehicle is being desired, people will go to whatever extreme to make sure that they can get it at the right time.
Okay. So I'm seeing a couple of things. I mentioned how, you're no longer slim jimming, getting the lockout. You're no longer breaking out the ignition and trying to, hotwire it. I mean, literally, you're unlocking the vehicle as if you had the remote in hand. So therefore not triggering any form of alert of any kind.
There's, no horn honking. There's no, glass breakage. There's, no thuds, somebody trying to jimmy a door or something like that. It all happens really quickly. And unfortunately, most consumers have no idea that this technology exists. I know somebody had their vehicle, their F-150s, they're a hugely popular vehicle to be stolen. Last hockey season, one of the moms, their F-150 was taken off their driveway, and she said, "Oh, they must have had a master key of some sort." And they're putting simplistic thinking into trying to explain how this vehicle was so easily stolen. Unfortunately, not realizing that there's this whole new technology out there that makes it really easy and very quick for thieves to do this.
What about time frame? Like, how long does it take? Do you have any information as to, just to give our listeners an idea of how fast this can happen?
You know what? It can happen in under a minute. A video that shows a vehicle being stolen off the driveway. This is out in the UK, but luckily there was video surveillance. The homeowners had security cameras that picked it all up, and you can watch it. I believe it was an Audi, and it happened just under a minute, I believe 46 seconds.
Wow. Okay, let's take a look at this and see how this whole deal goes down.
Okay, so here we got the vehicle sitting on the driveway. The thieves are pulling up, obviously late at night.
Regular neighborhood too, like nothing.
Yeah,
out in the
and
middle of
well
nowhere.
lit.
Well lit too.
I
Yes.
mean, these guys are not looking for a dark street where they can't be picked up. So we have the two thieves that are approaching the vehicle. You can see that they're holding pieces of hardware. One of them is now walking to the front of the house, and he's trying to pick up the key fob. Thinking, hey, it's by the front door. And the second thief is now pulling on the door handle of the vehicle, trying to see when
he got it right there. He got it.
Yeah, they picked up the signal. He broadcasted it back to the vehicle. They opened up the door. So the thief walked away for a second. He's coming back. He's going to go back to the front door. So they were able to gain access. They haven't started it yet. They're going to pick up that signal again. He's going to broadcast it back.
He has his foot on the brake. He's trying to press start right now.
Yeah, they're pushing that button, waiting for that signal to be broadcasted. In a second, you saw the lights in the tail lights get a little bit brighter.
There it is. Car's on.
They got it. They started it. All of this happens extremely fast. No noise, no attention, and off they go. That vehicle's gone. And the sad part about all of this is, by the time the owner of that vehicle wakes up in the next morning and realizes his vehicle is gone, that vehicle, there's a good chance it's never going to be recovered, number one. And number two, the thieves can now recode keys and that sort of stuff and send these vehicles overseas or whatever it is, break them down for parts, before you even wake up the next morning.
This is something. So I'm curious. You have my curiosity piqued. I mean, obviously, we're going to be getting into the technology that Nav-TV offers to combat this. But to put this in perspective, how popular is this? What are the type of vehicle? Do we have any information as to, how popular this form of theft is and what type of vehicles are they being targeting?
So if you have a vehicle that has passive keyless entry, meaning you can open up the door without having to hit, lock or unlock on the key fob. You just have to be standing within close proximity, and it has push button start. Those are the vehicles that are going to be vulnerable.
Wow, that's a lot of vehicles today.
More and more. I mean, everybody's looking for that convenience. Everything's going wireless, and less manual involvement. So basically, almost every new car that comes out nowadays has got some sort of push button start. I mean, I've got a vehicle. I never have to touch the key fobs. You walk up to it, open up the door, start it up. Sometimes I even doubt myself as to whether or not I brought the keys, but obviously I must have. I started the vehicle. But I mean, you don't have to touch your keys at all nowadays.
No. We have a newer vehicle. I have a little compartment in my bag that I bring everywhere we go. I don't think I've opened it since I've purchased the vehicle. But I know I have it because the car starts, right? So exactly as you said. Now, Mike Danbrook said, add something here. Not only that, but anything personal in the vehicle is also considered gone. I mean,
Sure,
you know what? They don't even have to use the system to steal the car. They can just use the system to open the car and take whatever's inside and leave.
Yeah, I had another video. I didn't share it, but I mean, there was another video where a guy walking down the street and noticed there was a bicycle in the back of a car. And they must have been, watching it for a little while. But they just opened it up and stole the vehicle, and stole the bicycle. And the bike was worth like 15 grand, carbon fiber, the whole deal or whatever. But he grabbed the bike in a backpack and away he went. They left the vehicle alone, but that was a good take,
Easy. So easy. It's scary how easy it is.
And nowadays people are carrying around laptops, leaving, cell phones, iPads, whatever, I do it myself. I've got young kids, and, if we're going to, my son wants to play with the iPad, but if we had to stop and go into a store, it's going to be left inside the car. And
for sure,
sometimes it's visible.
Let's talk about popular vehicles that are targeted these days through these methods.
Yeah, actually, we have this morning, right before I got on the call, I wanted to one of the websites for the insurance bureaus and pulled up a list of the top 10 stolen vehicles. Now, you'll notice all of these vehicles are fairly recent. That doesn't mean that a 2019 or 2020 or 2021, isn't being stolen. It's just saying that these are the top 10 out of all the vehicles that are consistently being stolen. And
this is Canada-wide, Dave?
This is Canada-wide, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, you look at this list, you've got anything from entry level to luxury. 2018 Honda CR-V, Lexuses and Toyotas are getting a hugely bad rap for being stolen. Not even from vehicle driveways, but from dealerships. Recently in Ontario, I remember there were being some news about a dealership, Toyota dealership. I think they lost like a dozen cars in one night.
Yeah.
And these guys were using relay attacks because the dealer had all the keys hanging up in an area where
they're all
they
there.
could pick.
And a lot of dealerships do that. You dealers know what I'm talking about. But and imagine right now with the shortage in new vehicles, the demand, it's just amplified to the nth degree.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's tough. Like you said, it's tough enough to get a brand new vehicle.
Well, just drive by your local dealerships and tell me how full they are right now.
It's pretty barren there. I mean,
I've got an interesting comment here from Craig Archer. Don't you, Dave? Don't you have the bag to put your keys in, like they said on the news? LOL.
Yeah, that's the bags are one way of dealing with it, but I don't know about you. I mean, I would never want to carry one of those things around with me. Number one, I think I'd be a little bit forgetful.
The weakness is the routine. Is to be like, are we really going to be in that routine to always?
And it can cause a little bit of confusion. Derek from Nav-TV, I was speaking to him yesterday, and he mentioned that, just as a test, he had bought one of those for his wife to try. And he said, you know how many times my wife used it? He said once.
Well, that's it. That's what I mean. It's the human element that's the problem there.
And the reason why she only used it once is, she didn't take the key fob out of the device. She had, it was a little pouch that you put your key in that has some sort of shielding or whatever. But she left it in her purse. She walked up to the vehicle, was trying to open up the doors. The doors wouldn't open or whatever. So there's that a second step that's, right. That you have to remember. All right, I got to take the key
out. You got to take it out for it to work, and then put it back in to protect. Yeah.
It's a lot of manual stuff, right?
Craig says, I wish if the news is going to report on something that they would actually do their homework. Indeed. And unfortunately, the news doesn't, especially with something so technical as this.
They definitely use a lot of scare tactics and, saying there's a high-tech device, but I've not really heard of anybody saying, hey, there's solutions out there.
Well,
and that's
why we're here
to talk about. Exactly.
Security. Do tell. What is this whole deal with security? Because let's be honest, I've heard different kinds of different alarm security type based solutions. This is something a little bit unique that I've not yet heard of. So please tell us all about it.
So Nav-TV, which is an engineering company that you brought up earlier, yes, they're known for a lot of the OEM audio interfaces, but they really got started back in the day by being able to interface into the factory navigation screens, which back in the early days were only nav. They didn't do anything else. Backup cameras didn't exist and all that other type of stuff. So using their engineering team, they were able to interface into these navigation screens and then introduce backup cameras for safety reasons, et cetera, et cetera. And then, the world took off. They've now pioneered so many different safety and other engineering feats in the 12-volt world. So this was a cool project for them because, they identified that this was a huge problem out there and they wanted to come up with a solution. And the solution is security. Security is basically a device that goes inside the key fob of your vehicle and it wraps around the battery. Okay,
it wraps around the battery within your key fob.
Correct. Okay. Correct. And we'll pull up a picture in a second. But this little flexible circuit board that has some microchips on it wraps around your battery, and your battery goes back inside your key fob. How it works is quite simple. Once you get, let's say you get home, as we mentioned, you might throw your keys on the table, leave them in your purse or something like that. When the security detects that the key fob is no longer in motion, that it's been sitting still for 5 minutes, it basically acts as a kill switch and disables the power from the battery going into the key fob. So it puts the key fob asleep. Once the key fob is disturbed, like when you pick them up the next morning to walk out the door, everything goes back to normal. By disabling the battery from talking or being able to power up the key fob, a thief is not able to access the electronics that are in the key fob because the key fob's asleep or dead, essentially.
Has no power.
Mm-hmm. Cannot transmit any signal, right? So obviously, if you have, multiple key fobs, having, multiple secure key devices in throughout all the key fobs for that vehicle is important. You can't buy one if you've got two key fobs, because it's only going to do 50% of the job.
You just made me think of something, and here's a question. Does that mean that key fobs are always on transmitting, even when you're not pressing or physically pressing? They're always transmitting?
They're always awake. And, like when your vehicle, when you push that door handle, it's broadcasting a signal looking to the key fob to respond. So there's always a bit of, hey, what's going on out there?
It's awake. It's aware of what's going. It's kind of like Alexa. It's waiting it's always on, basically.
Correct. You don't have to push a button on your key fob to make it do anything.
No, that's right.
There's always that two-way communication.
Okay.
We've got a cool video that we shot to kind of show how the secure key process works. I don't know if you want to pull that up.
We'll definitely pull that up. And we do have Keith McCumber from SoundsGood standing by also in the back studio, because we're going to bring him on as a dealer. He's got some experience with this product, and I'd like to hear from him as well. But let's go to the video. This is you with Mike O'Connor from Gemsen talking about how this key fob system works in real time.
We're here today to do a quick demo on the new Nav-TV secure key. A very prevalent issue these days are relay stealing. A new way of stealing vehicles called relay theft. And basically what that means is people can use devices standing both at your vehicle and within proximity of your key, whether it's your front door, a restaurant, the gym, wherever you are, to be able to trick your truck into thinking that the key is at the vehicle or at your car and be able to steal it. What we have here is just the regular keys for this Dodge Ram. I'll show you how it works. Obviously, put my foot on the brake, press the start button, the truck starts no problem. Because the key is within vicinity of the truck, it recognizes the key, they talk to each other, and the vehicle starts. What our secure key device does is if I exited the vehicle right now, I walk in my home and I put my keys down in my front counter of my house, like most of us do, or in a bowl by our front door, or what have you. The truck is still sending signals back and forth trying to find the key, and if the key becomes close enough to the vehicle, it will open the doors and allow the vehicle to be started. What happens here is the device that we have inside the unit, it's going to start a timer here. The device that we have inside this unit that you can put in yourself eliminates the ability for the truck to speak to the key after the unit, which is inside the key fob, is still for 5 minutes. So after 5 minutes has passed, which we'll speed the video up so you can see, I'll try the exact same sequence and you'll see the truck will not start. So as you see the timer, we're about to turn 5 minutes. So this is simulating that the keys have been sitting in your house or in your locker at the gym or on the table at the restaurant for 5 minutes without being disturbed, without being moved. And the technology is that we have now put the ability for the truck to talk to the key to sleep. So those keys haven't moved in 5 minutes. I'll do the exact same sequence, put my foot on the brake, press the button. Nothing, the truck will not start. The truck will not start. It says push button with key fob to start. The key fob is in the exact same location, but because we've shut down the ability for the truck to speak to the keys, the truck will not start. Now, I'll pick up the keys, put them in my hand, press the button, and the truck will now start. This is a very simple DIY installation that's as simple as removing your battery from your remote control and putting the device in between. It comes with a battery if needed. In some cases, to fit the real estate of the actual device and the battery, it needs a different battery. If the application warrants it, it will come with the product. Thanks for the time.
All right. Very, very, very basic, yet, man, that tied it all together. Now, what was interesting for me, Dave, was literally the moment he moved that key fob, the signal went through, and which demonstrates just how precise that is with the movement detection.
Yeah, I've been using the device quite a few times, and to be honest, even yesterday, I was waiting for something inside the car, just put the keys in the center console, let it sit there or whatever. And when I, saw my daughter coming back to the truck, went to push the start,
and didn't start.
Wouldn't start. As took me a second. It's like, why doesn't it start? Oh yeah, security key. Jiggle the keys, and I'm just talking gently. You don't have to shake them violently or anything like that. But as long as they detect a little bit of motion, it reactivates the circuit, and the vehicle is able to start.
Really Craig again brings up an interesting point. Apparently now the thieves are walking behind you after you park at the mall, and one person code grabs while the other is at the vehicle, which I can see that happening. Not sure how much of this is going on, but at least the security key is a great start. So yes, there is that 5-minute window of opportunity, but let's take, back out of the woods for a second. You have now decreased any time to 5 minutes. I mean, I think it's a pretty, amazing thing to put on your side versus the thieves.
Yeah, here's the thing, and Craig brings up a good point. If somebody really wants your vehicle badly enough, they're going to get it. What security is designed to do is to try to make that as difficult as possible. If you're walking in the mall and somebody's capturing your key, it's because that person's been watching you, because they know where you parked as well.
As creepy as that sounds, because that's creepy.
Somebody's been monitoring you, and they're saying, all right, he's at the mall. You go hang out where his car is. Obviously, they must know where his car is parked. And, you follow that guy in. So unfortunately, if you're walking through a mall, that movement or whatever security isn't going to do the job for you. But realistically speaking, that scenario is spooky enough that those guys really want the vehicle, and, they're going to find a way. They'll follow you home, at that point, and grab your vehicle at home too. So where there's a will, there's a way, but let's try to make it as difficult as possible.
And that's the whole point, right? Is to deter. These are theft deterrent devices, and any stick that we could throw into their wheels. I mean, that's the whole point. Let's say we go to Coquitlam Live to have Mr. McCumber come in and hear a little bit from a retailer standpoint about this whole relay theft, and is that a thing? What's going on, Keith?
Well, I'm standing here in my stock room because there's a lot of noise outside, so there's less noise in here. Hearing Dave freak me out about, oh my God, they're going to stalk me home if I don't give them my stock.
It's pretty creepy and scary. I mean, somebody following your imagine your partner, your spouse. That's just, I mean,
let me just shift here. I don't want to hear about that. I don't want my wife to hear about that.
Yeah, no, we don't.
It's really simple. We sell these things.
Oh, is that it right there? Let me put you on full screen. Please show us that. Okay, so that's the size. That's what it looks like. Okay.
Yes. They look like this inside.
Okay.
Really small. This is actually the technology, and it just touches the battery, holds onto the battery. Once it's held onto the battery, it either works or it doesn't allow the battery to work. Really simple and smart. So the reason I sell them is because people like myself, just they go home, they open the door, they plop their keys right there. It's human nature to be lazy that way. We're programmed. I don't know who programmed us, but they did a good job. And so we sell these so that they don't get their product stolen.
Keith, let me ask you a couple questions. Number one, the relay theft in general, in your experience, is this something that consumers are aware of, or do you feel that you are always educating them right now about it? I'm curious.
Well, that's what we do. It sounds good. We always educate. We have these near the till, and so we're getting a video of it too, so that they can watch it passively on the TV. So it's always educating, and that's always been our thing. We don't want to do a sale price or anything. We just want to educate people so that they want to buy things.
Right. And do you provide, is most of the time, are you installing it for them? Even though it's a simple install, I can see how people won't want to break apart their fob.
Yeah. We'll install it because we're experienced taking batteries out.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Now, do you have you done a demo to somebody? Like, this is one of those things, like, really, this is going to work, this little thing here? Like, I can see how consumers can be hesitant to pay the price for this little piece of thing that goes in my battery. Oh, I'm curious, how do you overcome that from a retail standpoint?
Well, it's the fear factor, right? So you love your kids, right? Your kids are driving, and they have this kind of remote control now. So love them a bit more just by protecting them without even allowing them to know that you're protecting them. It's the best way a parent can be, right?
Interesting. I got a comment from Danny Prezzo. I expect vehicle manufacturers will apply this type of technology in the future, but until then, security is the solution. Keith, you're nodding your head, or you're shaking your head.
Wow. Mercedes is the only one that does this.
Yeah, I believe there's now a secondary, and Derek had mentioned it to me yesterday. I apologize, but it's a variation of this patented technology. So they've recognized that they need to change things, but until everybody rolls out with the latest and greatest new vehicle out there, there's going to be many years of vehicle tests that will continue to happen until this technology flushes out all the old vehicles on the road, right?
Couple of questions. So first, I'm going to put up this question from Rolly Berkman's asking, have you seen it affect the battery life of the fob?
I've been using this since it came out. Derek introduced this to me probably 2 years ago. And so I put it in my BMWs, and I haven't changed any batteries in the BMWs forever. So
okay, so no noticeable difference of battery drain whatsoever.
It's definitely going to draw a slight amount of power, but it's nothing significant to say, hey, well, I got to change my batteries twice as much, or 50% more, or 10% more. In fact, Derek had mentioned, sorry, Ben.
Yeah, that's okay.
Derek had mentioned that he had one in his wife's vehicle, and over the past 4 years or something like that, he's changed his battery twice in his key fob.
The reason I'm like, this totally makes sense, because if the device shuts off the broadcasting of the signal, shouldn't that also save battery life, if anything, when it's not moving?
Potentially.
Right?
We're not engineers, but your logic is definitely sound. So, there's a bit of savings in power there, but then there's a little bit of, hey, the secure key is kind of, operating in the background, right?
Craig from also asking from a retailer standpoint, this is a great over-the-counter sale item while checking out. Just need a small desktop display, Dave. Hint, hint.
Great
Nudge,
idea.
nudge.
That's a great idea. And, the beauty of this, or actually what Keith mentioned is, you definitely have to bring this product up to your customer. A customer is not going to walk in your store and say, hey, do you have, security? Like, it's just the technology is so new, and the problem that's, happening right now is so kind of foreign to customers that they're not aware of the actual true extent of the problem, and they don't really know that there's a solution. So us as retailers have to say, hey, by the way, you've got a Toyota. Did you know that, it's one of the top 10 stolen vehicles? You spent $50,000, $40,000 or whatever on that vehicle. Don't you want to protect its contents and the vehicle from being stolen? Because yes, we have insurance, and vehicles can be replaced and all that other. Man. And you're not going to get, what you thought you were going to get, and whatever you had in that vehicle is also gone. And, it's you want to stop it and prevent it by all ways possible.
100%. We always talk about maximizing the sale, right, Keith? When you have the customer in front of you, if you're doing a car alarm starter and it's just a starter, and what a great easy add-on to be a starter / security kind of combo right there. I think that's a great opportunity to kind of upsell or include this into your sales pitch. So I have some questions technically about this.
Retailer,
sorry, go ahead, Keith. Nope, it's freezing up.
I got it's really convenient because only two to stock. One size fits one battery, one size fits the rest.
He just answered what I was going to ask. Yeah. Okay. So there's only one SKU basically, because that is a universal fitment, Dave.
Well, there's actually two SKUs. There's one for a 2430 battery, and then there's a 2032. And we have an application chart that recommends whatever battery and device to purchase. Electronically, there's slight variations, but essentially, there's two SKUs, right? So all you have to do is, bring in the two SKUs, and you'll be covered for about 95% of the applications that are out there. And they're sold in 2-packs or single. I mean, obviously a 2-pack makes the most amount of sense because most vehicles are going to have two key fobs.
Two key fobs, yeah.
But, we're hearing, as, you guys have had various remote start discussions and all that. There's some brand new vehicles where you're only getting one key fob. Like I believe Honda's.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To save on money, of course, right?
Do you know how much it is to purchase another one?
I'm sure it's $10.
Yeah, it's $10 plus a little bit. I've heard numbers of $300-400 for an extra key fob. You know, and of course, they have to charge you to program it. That's the other thing. But anyhow.
So if you're in one of those unlucky bunches where you have to buy a second key fob for your vehicle, you can buy a single piece of secure key.
All right. I think Keith dropped up. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Keith for tuning in and giving a little bit of perspective. And Craig, thank you for your comments. I mean, obviously, this is a great counter item. You know, as you saw with Keith's, the package is not big. You can have a little row of them real quick. Hey, do you have a, let's ask the question. Do you have a security key? And sometimes that whole technique of, what do you mean you don't have one, works with this type of product, I would say.
We're going to have some POP product, a counter display or a counter card of some sort, just to act as a reminder to bring that attention to that customer. Let's be honest, we're all humans. We'd like to remember to present things all the time, but sometimes you forget. So having that, on the table or whatever to say, hey, prevent vehicle theft, may trigger a conversation and remind a customer to, ask about that solution. But
if you could have that little screen just playing that video of how it works and how the thieves do it, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Absolutely. And there are some great videos that we can present or send out to some of our dealers. I know a lot of them have TVs. We can throw them on a USB stick and scroll it throughout the showroom and that sort of stuff. So while the guy's waiting,
or pull up this episode and go to the part where we're talking about why you need it. And there you go.
There you go.
Another tool.
Shameless plug.
Patented technology, right? Only with Nav-TV you're going to find this technology.
Correct. I mean, there are other manufacturers that have different ways of trying to deal with relay attack. A lot of it involves, expensive pieces of hardware that have to be hardwired into the car. It's a significant investment of time and money. So, those solutions, would help with what, Craig brought up. If you're really scared that, you're a huge target, somebody wants to steal that Range Rover and, maybe that's a solution for you. But with security, this particular product, you saw how quickly it goes in. It's about 60 seconds, 90 seconds to install. And it's
no servicing, no programming, nothing.
I'm pretty sure I could get my teenage, daughter to install it and, without any
and super easy to self-test and double check if it works, like what Mike did. Super easy.
Correct. I mean, once you put in the security key, if you can lock and unlock your vehicle, that everything is working correctly, right? If for some reason you don't install it correctly, or it's not sitting right or whatever, your key fob's just not going to respond.
But that 5-minute test where you just leave it on your dash, don't move it, right?
I think that's a great presentation. And I brought that up. I had brought that up to Mike because of that same scenario. I mentioned. I said, "Hey, I remember sitting in the vehicle and it went to sleep." And that's if you can get 5 minutes out of your customer, that's a great demo, and I'm sure it'll sell the device in itself.
If you guys are interested in Nav-TV products, they are distributed exclusively in Canada through the good folks at Gemsen. We've got their digits on the bottom. You want to visit the website, gemsen.com, or give them a call. That is, of course, Dave's personal cell number. He loves receiving your call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Listen, I want to thank all our guests. All our guests. Keith, but what I meant to say is all our listeners who for being very active today and asking the questions and chatting about it. All these comments are fantastic. It really makes the show more interesting and more educational. And on that, Dave, anything else we want to say about security?
No, you know what? I think we talked about everything that we could say about it. Awesome device. This time of year could make an awesome stocking stuffer. So reach out to your Gemsen rep. You can call the office number that's down below, and we can get you some pieces in your hands.
There we go. Security for the win. Big W. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Keith.
Bye. There you have it, folks. Security, a device you may not have known about, but you certainly do now. It will help protect against relay theft in the easiest, most simple way. Awesome thing to have on the counter for an upsell or an inclusion in any remote starter install or whatnot. Offer it, educate your customers, and I think you'll find this is not going to be a very difficult one to sell through, especially the fact that there's only 2 SKUs. So on that note, make sure you contact Jensen for all your Nav-TV goods that you may want to inquire about. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. It's been a good one, very educational one about relay theft. I believe we have one more connected before the end of season. We wrap it up for the holidays. It's a big one, and we're all going to be talking about SiriusXM. We've got some of the biggest distributors all in the house as we talk about the category, the product, and all that stuff to close out the year in a great roundtable scheduled for this Friday. And I hope you get a chance to tune in. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Thanks for tuning in to another CMA Connected presented by SiriusXM. Until next time, we connect.
Goes topics. I mean, yeah, let's talk about today we're gonna go topics.
Roll it down.
I am.
You don't need a car to listen to SiriusXM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on SiriusXM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?